to the podcast. My name is Scott Bledsoe, and I'm your host. Now, this is the HOF Youth Guys podcast called Couyon, Roux. It's actually like the perfect name because it's funny because Couyon is a Cajun French name, which is I have like half me Cajun French, but in French means testicle, but it also means crazy person in Cajun French, and so we're going with the Cajun French name of that, which is pretty funny. And Roux is like a big mixture of things. But we're here. We have this podcast because we're going to talk about today is that the modern man has kind of been really talked to death. Where it's so much where it's just like all these different ideas and things, and just kind of like so where does it kind of go? And so it's like I want a podcast that we can listen to that's for men, designed for men, and spoken in a language that we can understand. So it could be slightly offensive. It could be kind of like a punch in the gut. But it's the absolute how we feel of what the truth is. It's our opinion of the truth. And but before that, we have a little coffee tasting that we're gonna do. I found the three manliest coffees on the market, or two manliest coffees, and we have Starbucks here. Please don't modify us at the manly coffee. But our guest here today for the episode 1 is our senior pastor, Scott Bledsoe.
What's up, everybody? Good to be with you.
I just call him Dad. He's been my dad. I've been 26 years, and he's basically been my dad all my life. I don't know any otherwise.
And he will continue to be his dad all of his life. And
so, I think just to have our senior pastor as our number one guest, and to kind of start this thing off as kind of honoring and just kind of what we do as a youth church. And so, really quick, for our YouTube video, we have some coffee tastings here, and so we have all three of the coffees here in front of us, and we're just kind of taste them, kind of run through it really quick, just as a little thing to kind of do for the podcast. And so, here in the restaurant is our podcast. Now, this is all dark coffees, and it's all black coffees. Why? Because men drink their coffee black, all right? And they have a donkey going off in the background. We're on a farm right now, to be honest.
That is so appropriate right now.
So anyway, coffee number 1 is the Starbucks coffee. I'm not going to lie. It's not bad.
Yeah, it's got a nice bold flavor. It's dark roast.
It smells like chemically in the bag, which is weird because I thought it would taste like very chemical. But it has a good oaky afterbirth.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that means, but I've never tasted oak. But, Starbucks didn't get to be a multinational company by putting out junk. So they kind of got their act together.
And honestly, I have a degree in business and marketing, and all we did was study Starbucks like 90% of the time. It's kind of crazy.
They're a great company, really.
They really are.
I don't agree with all their policies, but they are a great business model, great company.
So that's Starbucks right there. Don't need that anymore. And then we have the Black Rifle Coffee Company, and this is kind of a parental warning. If you're under like 16 years old, maybe ask your parents before looking up their stuff. Because, they're all veterans. They kind of been in combat. They're a little, they're not a little not normal. They're obviously great people. We love all those people, but they're not overcome heads. They use a lot of 4-letter words that we don't necessarily use in life or on the podcast. So, maybe use parental description as viewing their stuff.
Yep.
But honestly, this one smells the best coffee.
Got a great coffee
smell. It smells like this is what I want my house and my truck to smell like. If I could. So this is the white straw right here.
I'm not gonna lie to you, that's a little disappointing. Really is. It's it's much weaker than the Starbucks, and it's just kind of watery on the back end of it.
I had like high hopes for this. Being somewhat of a coffee connoisseur, I drink at least 8 cups a day. But it's pretty stinking weak. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it honestly kind of sucks, to be honest. Like, it's very disappointing. I had really high hopes for that one.
Yeah, you kind of a good lesson in naming. You can brand and market. Sometimes it's better than the actual product.
Exactly. And it's like, maybe they put some some real AK-47 actually in their coffee to make that one taste a little better.
Dip the end of your barrel in it.
Like, shoot the suppressor, get it red hot, and all right. And the last one is called Death Wish Coffee. This is called Valhalla Java, or Java, whatever you're going to say it. And this is marketed as the strongest coffee in the world, most pungent, most caffeine. I think is that. Really cool packaging on here. I think they definitely have the best packaging based on Starbucks. But let's have some taste.
Yeah, they're really marketing toward men with the Viking imagery, black packaging.
I love Vikings. It's pretty cool. So, what do you think of that one?
I don't know. It's kind of I think it's better than the Black Rifle,
Definitely.
but it's really not as bold as the Starbucks is.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not bad, but it's not great either. Just kind of right there in the middle.
if I see this picture, I'm like, as soon as I taste it, it's gonna like punch me in the mouth, which it did not do. I'm like, this is kind of weak, to be honest with you.
Now-
It's not bad.
I can't believe that has the most caffeine in it.
Yeah, you can barely taste any of it. So that was good. So I mean, so just kind of going off of that, it's kind of unfortunately Starbucks wins it all. You think, hey, we have all these manly coffees. I can take
Hey.
these coffees. I mean,
Thanks,
it is what
guys.
it is. And so today, this kind of transitions us into our topics of today, which, packaging isn't all what it's supposed to be sometimes. And looking at the modern man, and the kind of things that have gone on, I think, one thing why I love talking to men is because I think that masculinity is constantly under attack.
Yep. I definitely would say that. In fact, I would say the whole concept of masculinity, it's either been lost or it's been perverted by the narrative today. And, just like with the coffee, what you find is there's a lot of branding, a lot of marketing, a lot of things that are not really, when you experience them, they're not really what they say they are.
Exactly. And, I just think, it's like everything that God designed us to be is they now say, well, no, that's not really good things about you.
Yeah.
And so, and they're constantly trying to put men in boxes that God never designed men to be in.
And I believe, and I believe one of the causes for that has been, and of course, this is not to be offensive, but I just want to be honest, is with the breakdown of the family structure, that a lot of young men have not grown up in the company of a man, and they have spent a lot of time around women. And that's not necessarily in and of itself a bad thing, but it's very difficult for a woman to make a man out of a young boy.
Yeah, I mean, and I just tell you, I obviously had a good father figure to go off of. And it was very different when I had my mom and dad talk to me. Like whenever mom was mad, it was okay. But whenever dad came home angry, it was like, oh, dang it,
Yeah, mom was a lot of talk, and look, women, they're very verbal. That's a gift. That's I don't want to stereotype, but that's kind of what I've experienced and what experts say they process verbally. But I tended to be more of a let's do something.
Yeah, I know. And if I ever wanted like care, I would go to mom. But if I was ever in trouble,
they're great at that.
Dad would come to do that. I think stuff like one of my most favorite stories, which I'll speak on for Father's Day, is that so whenever it was technically their first house, but technically their second house, but it's really their first house. Is my mom, she's like follow all the rules, stuff like that. But then I remember we would come home late on church some nights, and my dad had these 2 acres, and in the other acre they always had these rabbits, and so we would take the Honda Odyssey minivan, mud riding, chasing rabbits through the field. And my mom would be like, Scott, stop it. And it was the most fun times ever. We're just chasing, who the heck chases rabbits in a field in a minivan? But that's the thing that I think that dads do that, it's like, it's dumb, but it's so much fun. But it's that kind of that edge of stuff that men can bring to the table where we'll do some of these things like that.
Yeah, there's a couple of reasons why I did that. Number one was just to, I wanted to be unpredictable. I wanted to have fun with my kids. Yeah. And then I love to hear my wife, I love to do things. And I knew that this wasn't going to hurt the van. The land was leveled. I didn't run over anything, didn't go through any ditches. But it was fun because the kids all loved it. They were like, yeah, Dad, go.
It was the best time ever. It really was.
And no rabbits were ever hurt in this.
At least not with the car.
And then to hear my wife, she was fussing. I never felt like more of a man than when I was doing it. Plus, we owned the property, so it was a lot of fun.
But it's been stuff like that, and that's one thing I would hope, and as one of the last things to talk about is kind of some of the things that me and my dad have done over the years together. We've been travel to different countries. We've hunted in all these different areas and stuff like that. And we'll talk about that. But one of the things about today, most modern manhood is perpetually hanging out or hanging up, in the locker room, and it's all just a bunch of talk. And everything is just like, no, this is what you should do. No, I hate the word motivation. It's like, if you need motivation, you probably should just quit now because honestly, you honestly really won't last that long in the first place. But, but the first thing is, when do men start doing, and when do men start acting?
Well, I know how it was for me. My dad taught me by example, and this is what he would say. And I think this is why the enemy, I think why Satan has attacked the family unit so much, is whatever my dad did. If my dad was a pastor, so in the early years they were always building something at the church, and I would just go hang out with him on Saturday. And man, I just considered it, I thought it was huge if I got to, man, let me nail a nail. I want to try this hammer out.
Yeah.
I had a nail bag on, and I wanted my own deal. But he would just bring me with him. When he used to visit at the hospital, and this is many years ago, but I used to go with him. He'd say, hey, we'll get an ice cream after we make a couple of hospital visits. And I would, back in those days, you couldn't go up to the room. I couldn't. So I would sit in the lobby and just wait. And we would just do things together, work in the garden. That's probably why I don't have a garden today.
Yeah.
Because I had to work in the garden. But cut up trees with the chainsaw, set things on fire. Just, whatever he was doing, he did a good job of including me in it, along with fun stuff like fishing and hunting and traveling. But I just learned by doing.
Yeah. I know from my experience, I remember we built that tree house at the old White House. Mm-hmm. That was probably the first thing we did. But just stuff like that where we always kind of helped you out. Obviously we always had to work, picking up sticks and things like that. I remember that day after Gustav, whenever we just cleaned the whole stinking yard. It was like 8 inches of just debris.
Yeah. I was looking through my pictures on my phone, and I saw that picture, and I actually did a before and after. The storm blew through. No major damage, but it blew leaves and limbs all over the yard. And it literally covered the yard. And we live on a place that's about an acre. And so, man, I made the whole family get out there. We raked the whole yard, picked up all the sticks, and I have a before and after picture. It's pretty cool.
That's one thing. It's like, we were always made to do work. We had to get dirty and things like that. And I think the problem with today with some men is that, they get all the confidence just from talking and not actually doing things. And causing men, to be defined by a language of thoughts. It comes across as, eventually it's, I don't have to do anything to order to have this achievement of being a man, which is I think it's such the wrong thought, because honestly I feel like as a youth pastor now, being around church, is that men are never really proactive in church. It's always women. Mm-hmm. I think there's such a just honestly is men just need to shut up and do something about church, because honestly they don't really do much of anything.
Yeah.
I think it's honestly very few men who actually say, I'm going to step up, and actually, lead in my church. Yeah. It's always women who do it. And that's kind of thing is, when do men start doing and when do men start acting?
Yeah. Well, been kind of down through the years. In fact, when you read the Bible, men were known for what they did. When I say the word King David, you think, man, he killed Goliath. Yeah. That was the thing that catapulted him into sort of the center of his portion of the Bible. And, when you think about people like Peter, you don't really know them for what they say. Peter was the guy that tried to walk on water, because Jesus did. And I'll be honest with you, I believe there's plenty of blame to place with the church that has encouraged some of that. But you're right. Again, I believe the influence has changed over the years. People are not, they're sort of known for what they say versus what they do. Yeah. And in the times past, man, people were known by what they did. And I don't mean what you did as a vocation, like as a welder or a carpenter or whatever. You were known that way.
It was your character.
But it was your character, man. That's the guy that, he fixes anything. He helps his neighbor. Yeah. That that's the guy, man. He's a good fisherman. Yeah. He catches fish, And
it's not that women in church is bad. It's just like men, step up and actually do your part. I find that even in youth is that just youth guys are even lazy too. I know even as me, I was a lazy guy in a youth church when I was young. And I guess that's kind of where my failure is at. In the start of all this is that I was one of those this lazy men in church. And honestly, it's haunting me. I've got over it, but I was like, where would I be now, if I had been proactive back then and not been just such a lazy Christian, as a man in church.
I think, I think all men get to that place in their life, and it's different, but where you kind of need that kick in the backside to realize, you're going nowhere and you're doing nothing, man.
Yeah.
It happened for me. Here's, I did pretty good as long as I was living at home, and then when I was 17, I moved to LSU to go to college, which wasn't in itself a bad thing. I couldn't handle the freedom though, and I think men, we have this tendency to take the easy way out.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
I just think we do. In fact, one of my favorite quotes was in a documentary on the Mississippi River, and it said, "Because men are like rivers, and each tends to take the path of least resistance, that's why you have so many crooked rivers and so many crooked men." And I think that's where a strong man in your life to not allow you to take the easy way out. Because if you take the easy way out, if you do what's easiest for you, you'll end up doing a lot of talking and accomplishing very little.
Yeah, I think two of the most staple times in my life that I learned from you was I was in 5th grade and I played up on the 8th grade baseball team and I wanted to quit. And my dad was like, "Look, we're Bledsoes. We don't quit." And so he said, "If you want to quit, you have to call your coach and your team and apologize for quitting and then pay me back for the money that I spent on you playing baseball because you're quitting." And I remember that was probably one of the last things I ever quit in my life from that one lesson. But also, this is funny, I told the story before, is one time I hit a car in a park and drove parking lot, lied to my dad about it and said I hit a pole. So I was in Cane's eating, I was like, I got away with this. And all of a sudden I get a call, "Connor, why is East Baton Rouge Sheriff's calling me about you hit a car?" I'm like, well, it's kind of what happened. I remember I was so scared when I came home. I was like, "Look, Dad, here's my license. I quit." And he looked at me and said, "We don't quit." And he said, "You're not going to quit driving." But it was just those times where it was like, no, I mean, honestly, I wanted to take the easy way out both times. And it's multiple times in my life where like grades and school and things like that was it's kind of that kick in the butt, no, Bledsoes aren't quitters, and it's not what we do. And I think that's one thing that's modeled me for the rest of my life. Like working out. I think in order to work out every day, I don't get up every morning and watch some motivational video. I'm like, no, I just suck it up and I do it.
Yeah.
And most things, like for men, is you just need to suck it up and do the things that matter in life. And it's just like that. I think now with my own son, I don't want to change his diaper. I would much rather let his mom feed him. But it's, hey, you suck it up and you just do it. Even though you don't like it. I think that's so lost because people get their feelings hurt now and say, well, I don't want to do that, so why do I have to do that? And it's like it's such I think men, we're bred to just suck it up and do things because that's the right thing to do.
And I think every man has to have that defining moment where it may be an actual father or it could be a spiritual father because, I just think about our own vision verse in Psalms chapter 68. And the Bible promises this, that God will be a father to the fatherless, because, you might end up watching this and say, well, my dad wasn't in my life. I have my own moment where I remember working for my dad at the church, and he had me. I was just doing manual labor. I was cleaning up, just doing out in the yard at the church, just cleaning up stuff. And it was lunchtime, and I said, I was hot, and it was nasty, dirty work. I wasn't getting paid that much. And I said, "You know what, Dad?" I said, "I don't think I'm coming back." And I had to finish up. I was cleaning up this trash pile. I said, "I don't think I'm coming back after lunch. I don't really like this." And he looked at me and he said, "Scott," he said, "that's fine if you don't want to come back." He said, "But I want you to know," he said, "if you quit on me now," he said, "you'll never work for me again." And then he just left me. And I went home and ate lunch, and I came back because a father in my life helped define, what real manhood was like. And the reason I was so strong on you guys about not quitting is because that's what my dad taught me, to not be a quitter. And I tell you, half the battle is just showing up and not quitting.
Yeah. I mean, my papa is a psycho worker.
Yep.
He cuts down tree limbs with skill saws on ladders and risks his life. Just dumb stuff.
Don't do that at home, kids.
Yeah, but so our verse for that, if you kind of want to reference that, is Isaiah 38:8, and it says, "But the noble man conceives noble and magnificent things, and he stands by what is noble and magnificent." So really, I think just kind of in that part is that men, we need to have morals, but we need to stand by those morals.
Yeah.
I think there's so many times that I think Christians and men, we spend more times trying to expand the gray areas of the Bible instead of actually progressing the kingdom of God over the earth.
Yeah.
We spend so much time saying, well, I can do this in the Bible because it doesn't specifically say I can't do this.
Yeah.
And we waste all of our time trying to whittle out the gray areas when God's called us to actually progress the kingdom forward. And I think it moves on to the next point, which is, we create culture by doing rather than studying. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I know I have a college degree. I've been to school, and I love studying. But at some point, you can only do so much by reading books.
Yep.
You can only do so much by reading podcasts, and watching videos and listening to these guys to tell you what to do. But at some point, you just have to do the dang thing.
Yep.
That's exactly how you learn. And so I have we can inspire and teach men with study, with words, books, and classes, but we can only make men through contagious culture created by other genuine men.
Yep. That's such a good quote. And really, there's nothing wrong. That there is a part is to educate and learn from others. But I tell you, there is no excuse for just getting out there and just doing it, even if you don't know all the answers.
It's so different.
As a matter of fact, this morning when I was talking to our staff, that was my encouragement, is that real leaders grow the most when they're solving real organizational problems. Or for you, when you're working on real problems in your life or real problems in your family, you're actually growing the most when you're working toward that. And not everything will work. But the great minds, I've often heard the example of Thomas Edison when he was trying to build the light bulb, and he kept using different kinds of material as a filament. I want to say he tried over hundreds and hundreds, maybe even thousands of things, and none of them worked. And he just kept considering it, well, I'm one step closer because I learned what didn't work. Yeah. And of course, he eventually found out what would work, invented the light bulb, and he's a legend today.
Yeah, I mean, if you were die today and had to give one quote from Dad for everyone to know, it would simply be, you get paid for the problems that you solve, not the problems you create. I think one thing, of kind of creating this culture is that I think manhood has become talking about a lot of the problems, but not actually solving any of the problems. Mm-hmm. I think, even so, if you don't have a dad, I have a friend Kyle Cash. Honestly, I don't think there's anyone who can outwork Kyle Cash at the church. He's one of those people who's he sees problems, but he said, I've already begun working on problems ahead of time. Yeah. I think one thing for men is that we've lost the thing is that we ponder or we just dwell on problems for so long. Yep. We talk about it, we whine about it, we cry about it, we lose sleep over it instead of actually finding solutions. I think one thing I used to love that we used to do is we used to go to Forest Hills all the time and ride dirt bikes and four-wheelers in the mud and just get absolutely dead, muddy all the time. But I remember, first getting on a dirt bike is such a scary thought. Because it's two wheels, and how does it balance? But as soon as you get on, and the more that you ride, the more comfortable you become with it. Mm-hmm. So the first ride was shaky. It was oh no. You learn. Okay, well, if I hit the gas, it's easier to bounce. It's the same thing with problems in life. And even creating culture with other men is that the more that we actually hop on the bike and actually hit the accelerator, is the better that we actually get at creating culture. For other men.
Well, there's this. When you get on a motorcycle or four-wheeler, especially for the first time, you don't know what you don't know, and what you realize is there's an element of risk to it. It's just like life, man. And I want you to think about it this way, that God created you. You're not an accident. Yeah. God created you as the solution to a problem. Yeah. You know what? I think about my own dad. My dad, God knew that there would be people in Louisiana that would need to hear the gospel, and they would need a church to go to. And my dad was the solution to that issue. He ended up here going to school, but he never really wanted to live here and never really intended to raise a family in Louisiana. But he was the solution to that. And so, of course, there would need to be a pastor after him. I was the solution to that, and I'm sure to other things. But I want every young man that might be listening to this, or older man, is God created you as the solution to some problem.
Yeah.
And the way you create culture, when you talk about culture, the way you create culture is not by hanging cool signs in your space. It's by being the culture you try to create.
Yeah, I mean, and it's actually being the person that God called you to be. I think there's so many people who are trying to fit in some skin that God never designed them to be in, and so either they're average, they're failing. It's because it's not that they're bad people. It's they're not being who God intended them to be.
Yeah, trying to be like everybody else, not wanting to stick out and be different.
Yeah.
But you were created differently than everyone else.
And so Proverbs 27:17 says, and it's probably the most famous guy's thing ever is, as iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens and influences another. And the real question, creating culture, I guess, for young men is, who are you watching? And older men is, who are you spending time with and actually creating culture? Mm-hmm. Now, I know for me, I have so many people, and I think one thing for, I guess, church people would be, I think it's very, very not a very smart thing to count out people who maybe don't go to church as not being able to learn lessons from them.
Definitely.
I follow some guys who are like, ex-Navy SEALs, or they're businessmen and things like that. And obviously, I would not take spiritual guidance from them.
Right.
But work ethic, focus, and it's like, as a young man, it's like, who are you watching? I watch, I have my dad, I have my friends who, like, Kyle and Jonathan, and then I also have people at, like, my gym who are, they're like very successful business guys who I get around, and I see how hard they work. I was at a ski trip with all these guys about 2 months ago, and these guys, I mean, they're answering phone calls at 4 a.m. in the morning, I want to have that same work ethic where, people are calling me at 4 a.m., and I'm working on vacation.
Yeah.
At 4 a.m. in the morning, where most people are sleeping, even at home.
Yeah.
And so I guess maybe kind of speak to the idea of who you're speaking into, kind of for the older guys.
Well, I think that's so smart, and I always wanted to introduce you to as many of my friends as I could, because what I've learned over the years is that what you lack in your life, and when you pray, whatever your prayer is, God, help me have more courage, or God, give me more wisdom. A lot of times the way God will answer that prayer is bringing another man into your life.
Yeah.
He'll bring another person into your life that has that trait that can rub off on you. And I want to go back to that scripture. It says, as iron sharpens iron. Let me tell you what happens when iron meets iron. There can be some sparks.
Yeah.
It could be a little confrontational. It could rub you the wrong way. Now, again, if you're content on taking the easy way out, you'll shy away from that because it'll be uncomfortable. But the way to God's destiny for our lives is many times to confront what is uncomfortable, what is maybe not natural, until we allow God to work that into us. And so you want people in your life that are going to constructively urge you forward, urge you to, into have better character, those kinds of things.
I think one problem is that most men, they do not have that support system around them. And I think, like going through this, COVID-19, is that if some of you, if you were depressed and lonely, you have exactly no one to talk to in those times. The past 16 days, I was in the hospital with our son, and I had friends who I could call and just cry, be angry with, because I had those people to talk to. But a lot of times, men, they're taught this personification of that, it's this lone wolf mentality.
Yeah.
Which in reality, lone wolves in nature are actually the biggest losers of life, because they always die first. Yep. Because they have no support system.
Exactly.
And so I think there's a lot of young men who are trying to be this lone wolf, and really no, they're being losers at life, but they're actually they're spiritually dying because there's no one to catch them whenever they fall.
I think what happens is they fall to the biggest lie of the devil. And actually, another way of saying it in Bible language would be a lone wolf is really just a selfish person.
Yeah.
They're out living for themselves. And selfishness is the way to unfulfillment and disconnectedness and just a lot of problems. I'll tell you, it's selfless, which is the way God, now we're naturally selfish. I'm naturally selfish. Everyone's born that way. But you get born again with a new nature and you begin to learn how to lay down self for the good of somebody else. And, I'm just able to watch you. You're a pretty routine guy. You're a pretty active guy. You got things you want to do. And I knew it was hard for you to go and sit in the hospital because you verbalized some of that. But I kept trying to remind you, hey, you're not doing this for you. This is for your family. This is for your son. And it's when you're doing something for a bigger purpose. And I'd say this, we all need something bigger than just ourselves.
Yeah. And so, the real thing is, if you hear this and you leave today, is, one, who are you watching? Do you have someone who actually can sharpen, two irons together? But also, if you're an older guy, are you actually pouring into younger guys?
Yes.
I think, so many times, we get so caught up in life is that, we just leave everyone else behind. Everyone has our own things to do. We all have our own problems. We all have our own responsibilities. But God calls us to disciple other people. Yep. So I think, there's a lot of older men who have so much to give, who are honestly, just kind of keeping it to themselves. I think one thing, how a church grows, is generationally, but it comes with older men, taking, having the sacrifice, to lay down, some of their time and actually invest it, into young men.
Mm-hmm. I think it's two. I think there's two parts of that, and definitely, as I get older, they say the first portion of your life you're learning. The second portion of your life, you're earning, and that's kind of where I am. And then you get to a portion of your life where you're returning. In other words, you're pouring into the next generation. And, I'm kind of coming to the end of the earning time of my life. And really what I want to do is pour into people. I think there's two parts of that. The Bible talks about how a wise man is a deep well. And so, you know what? Sometimes you have to become pretty proactive in approaching them. Now, let me just tell you this. Wise men are not going to try to force wisdom on you.
Yeah.
They are not going to chase you down and hold you still so they can teach you something.
Yeah.
And so what you have to do is look at people's lives and see if there's anything in their life that you want from them. Yeah. Then go after them. And then, they're like a deep well. You've got to ask the right kind of questions. Hey, man, how did you get there? How do you keep your marriage together for whatever, 10, 20, 30, 40 years? How did you raise good kids? I've asked that of people that I have come in contact with the years. You got to be good at drawing those answers out of them because they're wise enough to know only people that really want to know will take the time to answer. And they just make themselves available.
Yeah, and it comes to the idea of you have to get off your butt and actually do something about things. So I have small groups. Get in a small group with other men. Stop, wishing and actually start doing. And it goes into our next topic, which is men's purpose is to be one of such service and sacrifice. And I remember one time I listened to this clip of Matt Chandler talking, and he said, there's this idea that the man should come home and lay on the recliner and watch TV. And he's like, it's the most wrong idea of manhood. Like, men, you should come home exhausted and tired from working and caring for your family. So that whenever you hit the pillow, you should be so tired that you instantly go to sleep. And that's one of the things I kind of model my life with is that it's one it's how tired am I when I hit the pillow at night? It's like was my day effective?
Yeah.
There's one thing I'm scared to do is that I go, even waste a whole day of just sitting around doing nothing, but not actually, bettering myself in some way. And so I love this idea that, first, a man cannot fulfill his purpose is if he is living for the applause, approval, and affirmation in this world. Now, instead, he contents himself on knowing his fulfilling of his purpose of his God-given identity. And I love it. It also says, a man is meant to carry such a responsibility that if he is not careful, he would descend into exhaustion and resentment without the inner resources that come from living with a connection with God.
Yeah, that really is so good. And I've often said the journey that each of us takes is the journey to discover why God made us.
Yeah.
To discover your purpose. You know what, man? My own story is I did what a lot of people do. I kind of just made it through high school. Didn't take a lot of effort on my part. Got into college, and I based my direction in life based on what would make the most money.
Yeah.
But that making the most money is not a purpose in life. Nothing wrong with making money, but that's not a worthy purpose. And when I got right with God in 1985 and I realized God had called me into the ministry, it began to give clarity and focus, and it allowed me to take on some responsibility. And it gave me a reason to be responsible. And and responsibility all revolves around this idea of serving. You serve God by serving your fellow men. You serve God's, the Bible said about David that he served his purpose in his generation. And I think the way to rise in the world and the way to be promoted and to be well thought of. Now, it's never going to be where everybody likes you.
Yeah.
But where good people will like you is you have a servant mentality. Like even though what I do now, I'm the lead pastor of a church, but I can lead the church with this servant mentality, this servant's heart that says, I'm here to serve.
Yeah. Now, I think, one of the things that we've got wrong, I guess, like toxic masculinity is that we've exalted self-service over self-sacrifice. Mm-hmm. I think it's one thing, why, with men and women is, men have become, instead of sacrificing for women, it's a self-service thing where it's like, that's why I know they have rape cases, things like that, where it's like, you have no right or any, my mom was almost taken in a Walmart parking lot. I would love to go back and just put 15 bullets in that dude's head. Honestly, that's how I feel about it. But I think even today, some of the stories, it's like, some men can be trashed. Like you have no right, for women, kids, weaker people. And why? It's because we have exalted this idea of self-service over self-sacrifice. Mm-hmm. And it's this idea that, as the world has to work for me and I have to be comfortable. Mm-hmm. But I think, men best adapt whenever we're uncomfortable.
Right.
And it brings it into our next thing, which is, let's admit it, most men are over-domesticated. Mm-hmm. Why? It's because we love being in situations where we're comfortable and in control whenever God has called us to be, in places where God's in control, where we're not in control, but also where we're uncomfortable, because that breeds character, that breeds focus, that breeds work ethic.
Yep, and it breeds faith.
Yes.
John Maxwell, a guy that has mentored me, I actually have met him, but he's mentored me through his books and his teachings. I was on a video call with him during this COVID-19 pandemic thing, and he said this. He said, God can receive no glory out of anything where you are in control of it.
Yeah.
And so we're called to walk on the wild side, if you will, to do new things, to maybe, like the old Star Trek deal, to boldly go maybe where no man has gone before. And but what that does is that just heightens our need for faith in God. I feel like sometimes when especially, I was able to lead our church through the flooding of 2016. And I'm just going to tell you, I felt like I was totally inadequate. Yeah. As a matter of fact, everybody on staff was looking at me. I had to make decisions about everything, how we're going to rebuild the buildings, who are we going to use, how much money are we going to spend, what are we going to do? And I would literally just get away from it. I would walk, my office is upstairs, and I would walk upstairs and I would sit at my desk and say, God, I need you. I felt totally overwhelmed. I felt totally out outclassed, if you will, like I wasn't big enough for the moment. And I would just pray, God, I need your wisdom. I need your help. I don't know how to do this alone. And I tell you what, I just was routinely would see God was doing things through me, through other people.
Yeah.
Anyway, we made it through, and it really turned out to be a big win for us and for our church. We were able to get back in it, and our team was great with all of that. But I grew a lot during that time, and it's given me a lot of confidence to go through this time in my life.
Yeah, and I learned from that. How you lead in crisis is what people see the most. Now, that's one thing. I was in the hospital last week. And we're getting all these crazy reports, and honestly, it's probably the scariest time of my life. I constantly thought, how am I leading through this? Mm-hmm. And so I would message my team almost every day of something that God was speaking to me, but but it was kind of an encouragement to that. And I think just for that, not only is it on the spiritual side, but it's also on your natural side. I think as civilization, as we become so comfortable, we get the we go in our cars and our trucks, that have heated seats, drive to our heated AC works. We go home and things like that. I think that most men have zero connectability or zero connection with their water side. Now, for me, one of the things that kind of a defining moment in my life was I remember we took a cruise, and one stop was Jamaica, and at Rick's Cafe they had this 40-foot cliff jump. And honestly, I was too scared to do it, and so I did like the little 12-foot jumps. Mm-hmm. I remember, and looking back one day, I was like, now when I tell the story, like oh yeah, they had this 40-foot cliff jump, but I did the 12-foot jump, and so it kind of makes you look and feel like the loser. But I looked at I said, how many things am I missing because I'm not taking the risk? Yeah. Where I can't say. No, they had the 40-foot cliff jump, and I did it. I smacked my arms on the water, and it hurt, but I got to do it. Yeah. And so I was like, so the rest of my life, I'm going to live like, I'm so scared, to miss those moments, because I may never, ever go back there again and maybe never, ever have the opportunity. Yeah. And so one thing, I've done, and my wife hates it, but it's, I try to live this idea of risk. We were in Mexico for our honeymoon a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. And it was just like, we went to this park, and I did every cliff jump, everything I could do possible. It was like 30s and 20. I was like, I'm doing every single jump multiple times. Why? Because I may never be here ever again. And I think one thing for life is, I want to learn through there is, I think person who I think men should be able to take a risk.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the essence of what it means to have faith, is to take a risk. There is no faith without a risk. I think, Connor, it comes from a couple of things. Again, I go back to the breakdown of the home. And a lot of young men have been primarily influenced by their mothers, and thank God for their mothers. Yeah. But a woman's greatest need is security, and so you develop the character traits from the people that are around you and are the influencers in your life. And I'm not saying they did anything wrong, and I'm not saying that you've done anything wrong. But I'll tell you what happens is God, you're going to find that what God is going to try to do is bring you around some men, and they're going to challenge you. And you have to let God use people to challenge you, challenge your thinking until you can get to the point where you did what you did. Then the Holy Spirit can begin to challenge you, and you can learn to confront these things on your own. Yeah. Confront your fears. Confront, and do things you wouldn't normally do, so you live without regrets. It's been said that the worst thing that you can do is not to be a failure, but get to the end of your life and regret the things you didn't do.
Yeah. I mean, and I would challenge most guys now is actually get out and do something. Yeah. I think, for us, we've been four-wheeler riding, which, we camped out under the stars that I've been hunting in Africa. I remember we did a safari, and we're all out the truck, and we're around this big white rhino.
That was funny.
The thing is, like they're so much bigger in person, and you're like 15 feet from them. And I think Zebra spooked and I think jumped up. Like it was like such like a rush of risk that, but like it's things like that, like I know I've been hunting in Africa, I remember crawling like 50, 60 yards to shoot an impala, or maybe like, we did, we whitewater rafted in California
Hmm.
and we did like this 3 hour trek in 40 minutes because the river was so high and fast.
Yeah.
And I think there's things like that, where I now seek the times where my head is scared, but I'm like I push through anyway. I think like even like skiing a few months ago, like I think naturally I'm a fearful person, but my goal has been to push myself out. So I remember like so I'm going up the ski trip and my mind is racing, but I'm like, but I've become like almost addicted to that feeling of where you like kind of push
Yeah.
your mind past that. I think at one point, I had like 48 miles an hour down on the ski slope, like an idiot.
Yeah.
But it's like such a rush, And I think, as one is, I had the opportunities thanks to you to do things. I think, we've hunted in, I think hunting in quail was one of the funnest things I never. I think hunting geese, uh, horseback riding in Utah, which is probably one of the most scariest things I've ever done. It was an intermediate course. I'm pretty sure I almost died on that a few times. But it's like stuff like that is that some guys they just don't do anymore.
Yeah.
I think fishing, just like
Yeah.
no cell phone service and things like that.
And look, and obviously, not everybody's interests are that way.
Exactly. Yeah.
But over the years, as the video games have gotten better, it's so easy to check into this virtual world, and you think your life is really happening online. I mean, just think about it. I was thinking about it the other day. There is a fishing game, and sadly, all some men will ever experience is they have fished in a game, but have never really fished in life.
You got dirty in the slime. And all
Yeah,
that
had
stuff.
to put a worm on a hook, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Or they've hunted in a video game, but they've never actually hunted in life. And what I'm scared is you'll live this virtual life instead of really living the life
Yeah.
that God has for you to live.
Yeah, because the world always preaches this idea of fear, so you have to be safe.
Yeah, it's like preserving yourself. And look, I don't want to send the wrong message. There is a place of wisdom
Yes.
that we need to have. But our life was not, I don't want to get to the end of my life and say, whoo, I never got hurt. I want to spend my life for the purpose for which God created me.
I think and like it doesn't make you a man to hunt and fish, but wherever you think it is. I think you like skateboarding that, try some big jump, that you might break something on. Not thinking, like kayaking or going camping or driving fast, where you can, not breaking the speed limit and stuff like that. But it's just like doing things that don't always seem so safe.
Yeah.
So I think the world constantly preaches stay in this little box of what safe is, and we never actually get that extra rush of what life is.
Yeah.
I think yeah.
I think about Jesus, and I was thinking about this, because we've been talking about doing this talk, but Jesus didn't live his life to grow old. He willingly gave his life. I mean, we're called to give our life for something, not try to preserve our life. I mean, he says, unless you give your life for something, you really never know all the rewards of what it means to sacrifice and be selfless. I mean, I just having a family. You've got to lay down your life.
Yeah.
If you're gonna be successful in any career that you go after, you're gonna have to have a degree of laying down your life and reaping the rewards of what comes from it. It seems counterintuitive. It seems like, ooh, I want to just play it safe and take the safe road and the easy road, but in the long run, there's no payoff to the easy road.
Yeah. I think the quote is like, easy lives are a breed for weak men.
Yeah.
And I think even when I got married, stepping on that stage, I had that same adrenaline rush. Bringing my son home, I had the same adrenaline rush. And I think even like spiritually, maybe like speaking at my first conference, at another church, or even stepping on my own stage, do all these things. It's these things where it's just like, if you're constantly not getting out your comfort zone, one is no, you don't ever stay the same, but you decrease or you increase.
Yep.
And so it's either, no, I would much rather increase than decrease. And so I have to put myself in situations spiritually, physically, mentally, where I'm increasing, or other than that, I'm just decreasing.
Yep. Yeah, that's so good. You know, Jesus, what he said to the disciples wasn't, he said, follow me.
Yeah.
And then he took off. He turned around and he took off. And that's what you just need, people that you can follow. They'll take you places, introduce you to things, put you in situations that you may not always be comfortable in. I've tried to do that with all of our kids, and I do that with our staff, and because that's what God's done with me.
Yeah. And so, hey, so that's the first part of Couyon Roux. Welcome to a podcast for men.
Uh-oh.
It's been a fun time. We see you guys in a few weeks. Thank you guys for listening.